this maybe stuff, we need to give you guys a straight answer. What is your advice to buyers and what is your advice to sellers?
If you haven't done anything that's going to really add to that value, I'm going to say
do not wait. Know if you're going above those comps, you're going to hit that appraisal ceiling. And when that happens,
prices in Pine Mountain are going to go back up and there's going to be more competition.
So we're going to be talking about, is now a good time to buy or sell in Pine Mountain Club?
Is it a good time to buy or sell in Pine Mountain Club? That's a
Good
great question. Yeah, this is a question I always, most of the time I get all the time from both buyers and sellers. Is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? I feel like they both kind of go hand in hand. And we thought today we bring a little bit of data and stats as to what's happening today in Pine Mountain Club, and especially being the first week of May. But also talk a little bit about what we expect maybe in the next month or so, just because people are kind of getting ready for that late spring, early summertime, and it tends to be a very popular season in Pine Mountain Club. But really what is happening in Pine Mountain, we want to make sure that we're educating our clients and that we're letting them know what's happening. And I always do this because the last thing I want is for a seller to take their property to market and not be ready to do that. But most importantly, a buyer to not understand really what they're buying into and the repercussions of that, right? So, let's start.
Yeah, let's jump into it. No, I think anecdotally, just kind of what we're observing. You have some cool data metrics that we can talk about, but just looking at it from professional opinion, observations, it's definitely stagnant. It's a weird market. It's not really going up. It's not bullish. It's not bearish. Buyers are still buying stuff. They're not buying stuff at an alarming rate. Inventory is coming, but it's still kind of like floating around the same number. There's about 50 odd properties, and that hasn't skyrocketed to like hundreds, and it hasn't dropped to like, only like 30 properties. So there's kind of this weird, it's like a weird limbo, and it is secondary market. So it's obvious to me why, it's going to perform differently than, let's say, a bigger city. Bigger cities right now are crushing. Like, everything's selling.
Multiple
offer situations. That's up north. That's going down south of PMC. It's just, there's nothing. There's nothing for sale. There's literally no houses for sale. So when something does goes to market, it's scooped up pretty quick because somebody wants it. And truth is, whatever you buy right now, it's probably going to be worth more in like 5 years. That's just the truth. So if you think you're going to get a deal in 5 years because there's going to be some astronomical economy devastating crash, that's not coming. Unfortunately, that's the unfortunate truth.
Even for Pine Mountain Club,
and even PMC,
market.
Secondary market. But I feel like right now, secondary market, it's just that, right? It's like it's like the step cousin, right? It's just like it's not super important. People aren't looking to buy secondary homes right now. They're looking for primary residences, and that seems to be the primary demographic moving up to PMC.
Correct.
It's primary people living to live their primary as a primary residence. There's not a lot of people trying to live in the mountain. That's a very select few. So I think to your point, summer usually picks up because that's when people start to rent. I think the Airbnb market picks up too. So that's when people are already like, hey, we really like this trip. How much would it cost to buy something? Yeah. So that's when people do start to look. So historically for us, that's when we normally have most of our transactions happen. It's like a little bell curve. It's like we go to the early spring and it bells up, and then it bells down back into winter. But summer tends to be more busy. So we'll see how things work. But right now it seems stagnant. You can go over some of those numbers to talk about how things have been kind of like simmering. Nothing's really boiling over or freezing.
Yeah. So it's a little, with Pine Mountain Club, I think that one of the things we got to remember that is a secondary market. Two, there are a lot of things over time. And I think about it like a snowball, right? A snowball, especially when it's falling from the mountain. It's getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. And sometimes there's with Pine Mountain Club and this specific market, things are consistent in some areas and things are inconsistent in other areas. And we just kind of have to go back. And I always kind of do my due diligence in explaining and helping my sellers understand the market, because the last thing, and buyers as well, the last thing I want is for them to not be educated. So is it a good time to buy in Pine Mountain Club? So if you look back in 2020, back in 2021, where interest rates were closer to the 2%. What does that mean? It means that it was really affordable and it was very inexpensive to borrow money from a bank or borrow money from any lender. So as a buyer, you could afford more and at a low interest rate, right? So people are doing a lot of these comparisons where a buyer could have afforded $600,000, and paid $2,000, around roughly $2,500, but now they're buying a $300,000 home at a higher percent, like at 8%, and they're paying around the same amount.
Right.
So that's a big discrepancy. So back in 2021, all the properties were doing this. They were soaring. They were going from, Pine Mountain Club was an average market where you would see consistently property selling in the 2s and the 3s and the 4s, and they went from, here, to it soared.
Higher highs every week.
High highs. So a lot of the people that bought in 2021, if they bought at a great interest rate, I would still recommend them to, look at the market, look if they have equity. They probably do because 2021 to 2023, every year properties do go up. But I do have some clients that bought around that season at the high end. And if they did not get a great number with their interest rate, now they're suffering a little bit and trying to sell it. But if you, have held, had a property and bought a property and, anything before that, then you're looking at an exit that's great. That's closer to 6 figures, which is incredible. And because you bought at the lower end of the market and prices went completely up. So 2021, we saw that the prices were really high for buyers, but they were affording more at a lower interest rate. So a lot of people came to buy. We helped a ton of families in 2021 buy properties, a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of people transplanting and making Pine Mountain Club their home. What happened in 2022, right? We got to look back at last year and we kind of have to assess a little bit as to what happened. Late 2021, the short-term rental ban was passed. We started feeling in the real estate market we started to feel the repercussions of that regulation being passed by the Pine Mountain Club Association.
It was like a lagging 3 months. At
Right.
about month 3, it just
I think
fell
people
off a
were,
cliff.
people were still, excited. Everybody was trying to get their property bought before the end of 2021, and the cutoff, I believe, was like at that point was the 1st of January, and then they pushed it to the 15th later. But one of the things that we saw is that January and February, there was still a little bit of interest.
Yeah.
Once March, April, May came,
It was still popping.
it started cooling down. And then that's where the market started cooling down. And then little by little, it started to plateau. So summer was still a popular month, but it was a little bit interesting. Like if your houses were priced right, if you had a good market, good marketing, a good agent behind you, a brokerage representing you, we sold all of our homes last year. And so again, that continued with the market. But then what happened right after that short-term rental ban? Interest rates went up. They went from, and they started going from like the high 3s to the 4s to the 5s to the 6. By the end of the year, we were closer to the 7s.
Yeah. No, that's aggressive. That's not. Yeah. It wasn't a slow to go from 3 to 7.
Well, what I'm saying is it didn't happen. It didn't happen in day 1 and then day 2. It was, but over months. Yeah. They kind of went up and down. So you got to remember as a buyer that all of these things you can't control. You can't control. I mean, to some degree, you can't control if certain regulations are passed. You can't control if inflation's happened. You can't control if you're laid off, if your, company is downsizing. Like all of those things, started to have an effect on the market, and it brought buyer sentiment down. There was a season where a lot of buyers, especially even during winter, even though properties were still selling in winter, we still sold a ton of properties. I mean, earlier this year, we closed on, close to 9 properties to be exact. Yeah. And now we're in, 4 different escrows. But like, I feel like one of the things that I'm realizing is we just have to look at what happened to understand where we're at, right? So a lot of the buyers that are coming to market, and there's about, right now, if you look, and there's 50 properties on the market in Pine Mountain Club.
50, okay.
Out of these 50, there's a couple that we talked about that we almost disregard because they're way overpriced. The seller is still, unfortunately, thinking that we're back in 2021 days where you can price your property astronomically high above market value with no comps because their house is so unique. You need to be realistic. You
they're
gotta
fighting. They're fighting the ceiling right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the issue that a lot of people are running into is just appraisal issues. And then no buyer. The second the buyer gets a bad appraisal, they're like, I'm not paying that much. Why would I? So, but I mean, continue.
Yeah. So I think that those are the things that you just have to consider as a buyer, that some people, some of my sellers ask me like, why is my property, or why are some properties staying on the market for so long? Because if you look back at, and, I'm going to go over some numbers real quick, the median price on Pine Mountain Club is $425. The median price on new listings is $399. So we've seen that decline a little bit. And, but usually back in the day, so the medium list price is $425, like I just said. The medium price for new listings is $399. The average days on market is close to 87 days, but now the medium days on market is about 35.
Gotcha.
So we see that the new listings are coming a little, the prices are coming a little lower because the sellers are finally realizing, all right, in order for me to sell this, I really got to price it according to comps and according to buyer demand and buyer sentiment, right?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I always ask sellers, and I always ask the sellers to do, is to put themselves into the buyer's shoes and consider how much a buyer will pay for this property
this season. Yeah,
especially when it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. Like, would you be willing to pay $3,000-$4,000 for the property you own right now? And if the answer is no, I'm not saying sell your property for anything less than market value. It just may not be the market if you want a certain number.
Yeah, you might have to wait 5 years to do that.
So I think that now I'm starting to see some of the sellers say, okay, we're going to listen to a realtor, or we're going to listen to the numbers and to the data, and we're going to price our property accordingly. We're not going to price it at the $425 that I want. I'm going to price it at the $399 because that is a realistic good number. And now we're seeing, the medium days on market come down a little bit. Like I know a couple weeks ago there was so you got to remember winter too, right? It slows down. So remember that snowball I was telling you? So all that happened in 2021, everything that happened in 2022. And all of that, believe it or not, has an impact on the buyer. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
So now that we're early 2022, winter's here. We had one of our biggest snowstorms. How much snowfall did we get?
It was a lot. I mean, I don't know the term in inches, but the snow, the berms are like up to the stop signs. It was crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. So we had one of our craziest snow. Obviously, that prevented and that kind of stopped sales for a little bit. Then spring came, and then new properties that were coming on the market and that were priced right.
It went quick.
Are going quick and are currently under contract. Right now, there's 50 properties on the market. 10 properties are currently active, under contract, or pending. Do you want to share a little bit about what's active, under contract, and what's pending?
Yeah, so active just means it's something you can put an offer in right now. When you see the status change on Zillow or Realtor, the consumer portal that you'll be using, this is for the consumers. Real estate agents, it kind of looks different. It's one of the jankiest looking websites. But for the consumers, if you see active, that means you can go look at the house. You can put an offer on it. The second you see that thing as active under contract, that means they've already accepted. They've accepted an offer, but the seller, the listing agent, is still letting people see the house. Just in case they want to put a backup, and the buyer doesn't take offense to it because it's so early in the transaction. Once you start seeing that thing go into contingent and pending, contingent means that they're kind of working through their contingency period, right? They're looking at the house, they're doing their inspections. They're getting their financing in order. That's what that means. Sometimes you don't always see these changes on the MLS, depending on how the real estate agent updates it real time.
Like if they're really on it, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of times it'll just say active under contract and then sold. But if they're on top of their systems in the back end, you'll see it change real time. And when it goes to pending, it typically means like everything's good to go. all their contingencies are removed.
It's just pending the sale. Yeah.
They're just pending some final things to kind of meet conditions and close out. There's like a 90% chance it's going to close if you see pending. But if you see anything else prior to that, it's good to still reach out and see if they're taking backup offers.
And most of the time it's going to say backup offers, like on Zillow or Redfin. It'll say like, offers. Sometimes people are like, what does this mean, Karen? I'm like, it just means that they're accepting backup offers, but it's still available. So again, I share all that because, 50 properties on the market, 10 of them are currently under contract. Last month, in the last 30 days, we've closed on 3 properties. So we only closed on 3. And it's, which is great, though, that 3 properties closed, but there's currently 10 on the market. Why is there 10? Because as soon as spring came and those sellers were really smart about positioning their properties at a number that was recommended. And those properties went really quick. Like I know 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was showing properties and there was a couple multiple offers happening on a few properties that were priced at the best number, at the right number that motivated, buyers to come to market. So there's still a lot of buyers. I'm working with a ton of buyers, but it's one of those things where I'm also, you got to remember sellers and buyers, like ask for comps. I always give my clients comps on every property that they're interested in. Why? Because it's my job. It's my duty to explain to them the market. So like I said, we're seeing that, medium is $425, but the new medium price for new listings is close to the $399. That 25 difference is obviously, of course, these are averages. There's properties that sell for more here, less for that in Pine Mountain. But you just got to remember that it really goes back to, you got to think about the snowball and just how everything compounds. And some things are just out of the control of the buyer and some things are in the control of the buyer. And right now, buyer sentiment is picking up in Pine Mountain Club. We're seeing more people engage with the market. But if they're going to keep engaging with overpriced listings, if they're going to keep coming across properties where sellers are not willing to negotiate, then they're probably going to say, I'm sorry, peace. Like, I'm going to wait for that right opportunity, right? And because there's still all these things that are happening. Like, there's still, inflation is very real. Like, where do we go recently to buy a sandwich and we were just super surprised?
Man, Subway, I was like deceived. I'm like, this is the most expensive $5 footlong I've ever purchased.
Yeah, we went to Subway and we were expecting like $5 footlong.
$30 footlong.
And it was $30 footlong. And everything
I think about it, I'm like, how is it that expensive?
How was it that expensive? We did get a couple things like drinks and things, but like it went up. They went up. They were like $8, like a little 6-inch. So it adds up, but I guess what I'm saying is like inflation, unfortunately, some people are being laid off. This is the season where people are being laid off. And
everybody's downsizing.
And people are downsizing and looking at their companies. And on top of that, interests are still pretty strong. So do you want to talk a little bit about interest and like how it continues to just like go up, go down? I know this last week they went down to like the 5s again, but they were in the 7s.
We had a little bit of a reduction. The Federal Reserve doesn't necessarily affect mortgage rates. We might have Michael Quinn on here because he knows a lot more about this stuff. But he's even told us, he's like, the Fed rate doesn't necessarily, they're not direct, it's not a 1-to-1 correlation. So when you see like, oh, the Fed's raised the rate, doesn't necessarily mean mortgage rates are going to go up, but it's an indicator that it may. But yeah, they've been steadily, aggressively increasing since last year, and predictions are they're going to start cooling off pretty soon. Because we are seeing it, like the jobs reports are starting to go down. People aren't hiring as aggressively as they used to. Businesses are starting to downsize. You are starting to hear like on TikTok people losing their jobs. It's happening more frequently, and all that stuff affects the market. It's like because people get they're fearful.
Buyer sentiment,
and they're like, I don't know if I want to, put an offer. What if something happens? There's like in this instance with the film industry, there's a lot of strikes going on. So those people are kind of like, I want to pull back. I don't know. But man, I'm gonna be honest. This is like 2021 again. It was the end of the world. COVID was around. This is the worst time to buy real estate.
I mean, over there was
everybody's freaking out.
Yeah, there was more outward things affecting like potentially buyers to buy.
Yeah, so there's
So
so
it's
much
not
affecting it.
exactly the same, but we
what I
have
am saying
different
is
issues, different
the
factors.
best season to buy, and it's not, you want to buy when everybody's panicking. You don't want to wait to buy when everybody thinks the market's doing amazing, because that's when you buy at the top. You want to buy when everyone's freaking out. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. No one knows what's going to happen with the next year's elections.
Our advice is really to buy when you are ready to purchase.
If you're
and when
looking for a
it's your
deal, though,
budget.
my personal advice is when you're looking for a deal, you want to buy when everyone's in panic, because that means you're not going to have 50 people bidding on the house. That's just the truth.
Yeah, you want to be ready though, and I think it kind of goes back to like, we don't want to miss. Again, at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your asset, and it's what you think. So we have seen that in times of panic or in times where there are a ton of media pushing buyers towards a certain direction, like don't buy, this is the worst time to buy, like 2020 happened. It was actually the biggest blessing.
Yeah.
The people that bought in 2020, they're set. They're in a 2%, interest rate. We're part of those people. We're set. Like we don't have to sell this house ever.
No.
Like this is great,
Yeah.
So I do understand what you're saying, but I think it takes education too. So that's why I know you're probably like, what's the answer, Karen? Is it or is it not a good time to buy? It's going to depend on your life circumstances, and really it's going to depend on whether or not you can afford it. If you can afford a property in the 2%, go for it. If you can afford a property in the 8%, go for it. And you just want to not overpay market value for a property. And that's why having an agent like us that is going to really educate you in that market is so important. So here in Pine Mountain Club, the truth is that the market has been cooling down and that prices have plateaued over time.
I see what you're saying. What you're saying. Yeah, I do agree. Always buy in the season when it makes sense. It's 20%. It makes sense. Buy the house. But I will say it is the easiest time to buy something in PMC right now, because you don't have to compete. I guess that's what I was trying to communicate. Is right now is the easiest time to get your concessions, to get your offer accepted, maybe negotiate price a little.
Right now we're still in that season. We're still in the season to do that, absolutely. And I do feel like sellers who are more receptive to what a buyer wants and what a buyer may need to close on this house, they're moving forward with the deal.
Yeah. It's
like
the people,
for example, I have a client who's a great client, had great, stats, but he needed money for his closing costs. And had this seller not offered or not been okay with providing a credit towards their closing costs, he would have still been on the market because he was a little bit higher. So
money's money.
At the end of the day, there's a little bit of a shimmy happening right now, right? Yeah. You have to shimmy with the market a little bit. You have to kind of do what you need to. And the buyer, what I'm saying is that the buyer is considering all of these outward things happening.
Right.
And if they're ready to go, they're going to put an offer no matter what. I have those buyers that it's like, I'm ready to go no matter what, no matter if it was 2% or if it was 8%, I'm good, Karen. Let's go for it.
Right.
We get them a good market value property and it's good. But then I have those other buyers that are an FHA loan or a CalHAFA, a down payment assistance program. They're USDA. They're coming to market because the rent is going up.
Yep.
The rent is crazy. And I know we're going to be talking about that as well. The rents are going up and they cannot afford to pay $3,000 in rent. They might as well buy. Yep. So that is why a lot of people are saying we're going to go to Pine Mountain Club. So we are in a slight seller's market. Sellers do have a little bit of an advantage.
Still.
If it's priced right, if it's, but you also have to shimmy a little bit, okay? Shimmy into that.
Those sellers that think it's
happen.
Like, they think it's like a hostage negotiation. It's like, it's hard. No, we're backing out. Those people, it's like, there's so many houses that are just kind of falling out because of that.
So it's interesting because here with the stats, I have that, and, if we just look at the last, 30, if we look at the market in the last month, the prices did decrease 29%.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. But they also increased 3%.
Right.
So we had an increase of 3% of sales, but we decreased 29%.
In value.
In value. Do you see what I'm going? But remember that the last stat I gave you, median price of new listing is $399 versus the medium list price prior was $425. So sellers who are coming to market in the spring, who are being more strategic, who have a better number on the market, who have a better list price on the market, are attracting those buyers who are good, ready, and able.
Yeah.
My job as a real estate agent is to have you as a buyer that is good, ready, and able, submit an offer at current market value that is supported, that we feel good about, and get you the best deal possible. And trust me, I do that for every single one of my buyers. But it depends on the market as well.
Yep.
So again, for the buyers, who the sellers are willing to work with my buyers, we're doing great. We're closing. Like this week, I'm going to be closing on 3 homes. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, next week.
Next week.
But I'm really excited because we've been working really hard to get these deals done. But all of these buyers, or at least the buyers that I worked for in these transactions, the seller had to shimmy a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, be flexible.
So that's why I'm like, there's a slight seller's market. Like you may get a ton of popular, you may get a lot of showings and a lot of interest if it's priced right. But that doesn't mean you're like, no, I need to get $1 million, right?
For your 2-bedroom.
So to kind of give you, again, a recap, we're in a slight, seller's market. The median list price is about $425. The median price for new listings is $399, so a decrease. The per square foot, average is $223. Average days on market is about 87. Medium days on market is about 35 in the last month, and prices have decreased about 29% in value, but sale prices have increased 3%.
Right.
So there are people also relisting, and that's, that went down about 13%, because there's people that are still, overpricing with an agent, and then they go back with another agent and they want, put it at a different price. Yeah. So we do have a little bit of a relist, and inventory, rent right now in Pine Mountain Club is, the medium rent is about $19.50. Of course, it's always high. All of these are medium prices, guys, that we put together. This is not like, this is it. But this just kind of helps you understand a little bit better of the market. So going back to the question, is it a good time to buy? What are we going to say?
I was going to say that we need to give the people an answer. We need to give you guys a straight answer. So this is my personal opinion.
Okay,
you can
go
give
for
them
it,
yours.
yeah.
I would say if you're a buyer and you can stomach interest and you could afford it, it makes sense, you're not stressed.
Yep.
Perfect time.
Yep.
Do not wait for next year.
Yeah.
Do not wait for next year. If you find something cute, you're happy with it. We have some clients right now, they found something they love. They're about to close on it this week, next week, pretty soon. They're doing their final walkthrough pretty soon. Move on that house.
They already did it, yeah.
Dude, do not wait till next year. If interest softens even a little, you're screwed. It's going to be...
Exactly.
So for buyers, if you can stomach interest and it's not really going to affect you, 100% go shopping next week. Buy a house next week. Buy something that you love next week. Sellers, obviously my advice to sellers is don't sell your house, because it's the most important. In your portfolio, the real estate assets, they're always going to do good over time. If you can make money from it, keep it. I'm one of those guys. It's like, if you can pass your house down in a trust to your kids, do it, because it's a great vehicle for generating cash and it appreciates beautifully over time. Never sell your houses. But for those that do have to sell, just be aware you're not going to get $1 million for your 1,500 square foot house. It's just not going to happen. Know the comps. Know if you're going above those comps, you're going to hit that appraisal ceiling. And when that happens, you're going to either have to come down in price and look foolish, or you're going to go back to market and no one's going to pay that much.
Yep.
So if you're realistic and you bought your house before 2021, you're probably making, and you didn't do any mortgages or anything, you're probably making a 6-figure exit, multi-6 figures for some people. So it is a good time for you to sell. But if you're stretched and you need the money to go something else, maybe it is a slower market, and just be aware that, like you said, it's about 90-ish days it's going to sit. And if it's not priced right,
it's going to be longer.
Yeah, it could be like a year.
Yeah, there's some properties that have been on the market. It was funny because I just called one of my sellers yesterday and we were catching up. How's it going? Yeah. He doesn't own any more property, but I just, stay in touch here and there with my clients. And I was talking to him and he's like, Karen, I'm so grateful we sold. I'm so grateful I listened to the strategy. I'm so grateful I pivoted when you said so, because I just looked at Zillow the other day and the properties that went on the market at the same time as mine are still on the market. That was a year ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a year ago.
Cool. So
almost a year ago.
What's your definitive? None of this maybe stuff. Not on this channel. What is your advice to buyers and what is your advice to sellers?
My advice to sellers right now is you have to sell right. You have to sell at market value. You cannot be, I mean, again, every house has its value, right?
Determine that value, yeah.
We can determine that value together. But if you're telling me, hey, Karen, I want $600,000, but the comps right now say 500, I'm going to recommend you to hold off. I'm going to recommend you to, stay put, hold on to your asset, let it appreciate a little bit more. We're here to sell properties. So we really very rarely take listings that are going to be outrageously overpriced because we don't want to do you a disservice. We understand that at some point you're like, oh, I'm willing to take the journey. I'm willing to wait as long as it takes, Karen. But then I'm like, if you're looking for my support, I'm just most likely going to say, if you're looking to get way over market value and you haven't done renovations, you haven't done any updates, you haven't done anything that's going to really add to that value or support that value, I'm going to say, do not put your property on the market. It's just not going to be the right time for you. If you're going to listen to my advice and go based on comps, let's go for it. If you are a buyer who is pre-approved, you're good with your finances and you have a good income and you feel like, things with your job are steady, you are ready because you no longer want to rent where you're at, you want to own something and you're able to afford that monthly mortgage. Yes, we need to get you into a home in Pine Mountain Club. We're going to do the comps for you. We're going to make sure that you're buying that property within a market value and, that if it is something that you just love and you're willing to go above market value, that is going to be at your discretion. But we're going to make sure to advise you as to the trends in Pine Mountain Club. Just like what I shared with people, if people are buying at the top of the market and they don't hold on to their property for a minimum 2 to 5 years to let that grow in equity, you're going to lose money if you try to sell it.
Yeah.
So, but if you are buying a property at a good market value or the low end of that market value, add value into it, right? Like add things that are going to
paint it,
fix it up, add, an AC, add heat, whatever you want to add, and you help appreciate the value of this property. Absolutely. I mean, like there's, I have a property that I'm with the client that they're buying it at a killer number.
Good price.
And it's a little bit of a fixer upper. They're going to fix that up. That property could be worth, a couple $1,000s more by the end of the year if they just do the bare minimum on it.
A couple thousand more in equity gained. Yeah.
Right, in equity gained. Yeah. So I do feel like I will just say that's my straight answer, right? Because I feel like I never want to. At the end of the day, it's really your investment. Like when we buy our properties, it's something that we really think about. Both of our properties, we got them at a great interest rates. We're just so happy we did what we did. We're happy that we were good, ready, and able, that, that we were good with all of our assets, that our credit score, your credit score needs to be a minimum of a 620 if you want to move forward with an FHA. If you want to explore other financing options like conventional USDA, if you're a VA loan, we have lenders that we can connect you to. And you definitely want to have good, solid credit scores. So keep saving up, keep paying off all your credit, all of your debt. So if you're good in that regard, you feel good about your job, you've been in there for 2 years, or and you have enough pay stubs, then you're definitely at a good place and able to start looking as long as you get that pre-approval. And again, just because you get a pre-approval for $400,000 or $500,000, that doesn't mean that's what we're going to buy, right? Like I have a client, where they easily could have afforded something, I think for $350,000 or $400,000, but we ended up buying less than $300,000 for them because it just made sense for them financially. And they're buying at a higher interest rate. They have hopes that if the interests go down, they'll refinance or they'll figure it out. But even if it doesn't go down and it just continues to go up,
they're good with
they're okay with that. So if you're
their
good,
rate's locked. So even if it goes up,
it's a fixed rate. But all I'm saying is like whether it goes up, like it continues to go up, and
they were already prepared.
Or if it goes down, they're able to do that. So if you're good in all those areas, credit, payment, credit, employment, and monthly payment, then you're definitely able to start looking as long as you get that pre-approval. And, if you're ready to go, we're ready to go with you. We're ready to start looking with you. We're ready to start showing you off-market properties too, and that we have coming soon. So I'm just really excited. I feel like it is a good time to buy in this area if you meet all that criteria. So if you're listening to us and you're like, check, set up a consultation. Link is down below. Subscribe to this channel, like it, ask us questions, text me. I'm always available. Text us. We're always available. But I think those are the things that I would say, keeping in mind all this information. So again, sellers, remember the trajectory of where Pine Mountain Club has been. Remember the snowball trajectory. And not that we're going down, but I'm just saying things accumulate over time. That's kind of my perspective. And another thing that could happen, though, is if we go back to interest rates being super low, prices in Pine Mountain are going to go back up.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more competition. So right now there is competition, to an extent, but not crazy. So you should go for it. When summer comes around and more people are engaging with the market, you're going to be worried a little bit, potentially, or that's what we've seen. I'm hoping, we're all hopeful that that's going to happen and that these 10 properties under contract are going to set a new precedent for the comps and for the properties that are going to be listed in the summertime.
Yeah, that totally. So we'll keep you guys posted. When summer comes along, we'll do another update to see if things are heating back up or if they're just kind of lukewarm like they are. But yeah, tune in. We'll come back at you, and you'll see it on the channel when we have a kind of another market update conversation. But yeah, until the next episode, we hope that this kind of helped you guys informed your decision if you're looking to PMC. Feel free to get a hold of us. All the info's in the descriptions. Subscribe to the channel, and yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Yeah, I hope this was helpful. So if you're ready to buy, reach out to us. We would love to help you. We're your local real estate agents. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.